Hi everyone, welcome to the show. The guest I'm getting today is the old school house DJ here in Toronto, and I'm very excited to get to know him more, and I hope you like it. This is Dr. Mephisto, and welcome to the ride.
I used to these doors here.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, man?
Good?
Yeah, good.
DJ Ron Jon.
Yes.
Is Ronnie Charlemagne your real name?
Ronnie's is the abbreviated name, or Ron's the abbreviated name of Ronald.
Okay, and
Yeah.
Charlemagne is your name.
Charlemagne's my last name, yeah.
Yes, you have like the name of French king, right?
French emperor, yes. The emperor.
Charlemagne was a king.
King, yeah.
King. The only emperor we had was Napoleon.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I know they use I've heard people use the term emperor, but yeah. So King Charlemagne, that is.
Yeah, it was the King Charlemagne.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
How you been?
I'm good. How you
good?
been, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like you saw the previous videos, but it's just like, we have like we go for a ride, we have a conversation about whatever you want, and but I have a few questions myself, because we met recently on a gig, they're spinning with Stanzef.
Yeah, man.
It was good, man.
Yeah, we of course known of you guys for the last year or so.
Yeah.
We actually got to collaborate for the first time through doing stuff with Remo.
Yeah.
And stuff of that nature. And of course, my homeboy Pradeep has an affiliation with you as well, so he has affiliation with us. It's a great connection. We brought Stanz F down, and it was a really good jam. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely, and it was good to finally get exposed to your guys' crowd.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing our stuff on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, enough about me.
Yeah.
So when did you start, spinning and all that stuff? What's the story behind it?
Okay, so I wasn't initially a DJ to start with. I was more on the musical end of things, so that's music production and recording and stuff like that. So I started that in around the early 90s.
Okay.
Right? Me and my cousins and then other friends that I knew, recording hip-hop music and stuff like that. The interest into DJing started happening in the late 90s, and I started collecting a bunch of vinyl, for sampling records and stuff like that. But I'm a music lover, so I collected anything from classical to house to, anything of that matter that interested me, I picked up and started collecting and started getting, the buzz of DJing from that point. And then it really started getting serious around the early 2000s. Linked up with a close friend of mine from childhood, and we came home one night and were disappointed with the DJs that were playing, and we said, "Hey, let's become DJs." And I go, "Okay, let's do it." So we did so, and then we started practicing and stuff like that, and of course we're talking about the era of vinyl. CDs sort of just started getting in there as well around that time, but
in 2000,
we're sort of
really?
Not 2000. CDs, CDJs.
Oh, I see.
And stuff of that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. CDJs and stuff.
Okay.
Around that time, they started having the equipment there from that time, right? So we're sort of trained on both vinyl and CD, and that aspect of things. So we put stuff together, and under the moniker 111113, we put on a mixed CD called I'm trying to remember the name again. It's called Music for Bad People. And it was really cool because we took a lot of our favorite house songs and we put in this, you know, actually it's 6 mixes of 20-minute sets, all right? Because we wanted to do something different.
That was your mix. Music for bad people.
Music for bad people. Music for bad people. And bad meaning, you know, bad was good for us. You know, that's that feeling. But we wanted to emphasize the deepness aspect of it, the raw aspect of what we were playing. So we sort of felt that term was good for what we're doing. And by the way, the name 111, 113 represented the houses that we lived in, because we used to live side by side. He had moved since, like, at that time he had already moved, but my friend John had already moved, but we were good friends and we reconnected like in our adult years and started, you know, doing that thing. So it was really cool. And then from then it progressed, doing radio shows. We did for 3 years we did a radio show called Weeby on Fusion Radio, which is a Scarborough U of T campus station. We did that from the period, I'm trying to get the right set of years here, I'm thinking was 2004 to 2007 or 2005 to 2008. It was in that period of time or something like that. And so we did that for about 3 years. So we have archives of great shows. I still even have a lot of them on CD. We have most of them archived on CD. I haven't uploaded them or anything like that. And then from then, we do side gigs here and there for different events and stuff. And then we landed a gig at Insomnia, the Insomnia that's down at Bloor and Bathurst. They used to have DJs there. And at the time we started, they had a slate of DJs. So we got hired to play every last Thursday of the month there. And so we did so for about, I think it was an 8-month period. Okay. And then John got a little busy with stuff. You know, life happens. He got a little busy. And then I continued on playing there. And then the manager at the time had left, but then the head guy that ran the place, he actually had me play other nights after the contract was up, because we had a contract. After that, from about late October, from October to November, he'd have me play on odd nights. So I go down to visit my father in St. Lucia during that time, and he contacts me. This guy Daniel contacts me and says, "Hey Ron, would you like to play every Thursday at Insomnia?" And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm in St. Lucia, so I can't start until I come back." He says, "Well, once you come back, the gig's yours." I said, "Oh, okay, that's great."
Okay, you need to explain to me what's Insomnia, because I moved that guy. Okay. I didn't know that club.
So Insomnia is a restaurant bar at Bathurst and Bloor. Okay. And it's been there since the early 90s, mid 90s rather. Okay. And it opened up first as an internet cafe, one of the earliest internet cafes in the city, but then it became a bar and restaurant, and then always you missed. Oh, well, that's okay. By the way, this school here, I just want to tell you something. I used to go to this school here. It's not a high school anymore, but his brother Edmund Rice Secondary School used to be known as. It became, I just remember, it became an elementary school, Catholic elementary school, and I'm not sure what it is now. But yeah, I used to go to there. So it's ironic we're passing through this old neighborhood. I used to have a recording studio back over here too, off of just west of Symington and Davenport, but I'll get into that later. But that being said, back to the subject at hand. So Insomnia, for the longest time, had DJs there for years. And like I said, we just joined in at that particular point in time. So that being said, I was, like I said, contacted by Daniel Quintas, and he told me, once I come back, it's mine. So then I came back around January. So I started playing every Thursday, and we're trying to come up with a name for the event. Several ideas were going around, but they already had a martini night that was going on there. So they went ahead with the name Martini Madness Thursdays. Now, this is the story of how I got my name, DJ Ron Jon. I used to get check envelopes, right, or money envelopes from them for my gigs when I'd come in, and it'd write Ron Jon on it, RON, but they spelled my friend's name John wrong, spelled it JON, right? So they just called me Ron Jon, right? So on the flyer, they just did it without saying, what name do you want on the flyer, right? Or stuff like that, and they put DJ Ron Jon. So I'm like, I guess DJ Ron Jon's the name I'm gonna be going with. That's the name I ended up having. So
the name found you.
The name found me, and I think it was a good fitting moniker in respect to my longtime friend who I started DJing with.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder of where I came from. So I think it was a fitting name to have to go on with that. And then also representing John, Jon, even though it's John, I'd be representing is both my father's middle names and my brother's middle name is John as well. So sort of keeps the John in family as well too. So I think it was fitting to have that name. So I've gone with that name ever since. And yeah.
So two things, like you started like getting also like you started your having interest in hip hop and house. It's a curious thing for me because in my country was different, but you had really like different ways. You had people who were really into hip hop, people into it was cliquey, right?
Yeah.
Into rock, into house. So you started with one or the other, or just like open to everything?
I started off mostly hip hop.
Yeah.
So we're talking, if we're gonna go back, of course, my early influences as a young kid is all forms of music, from pop to R&B to all that stuff. But then very intensely, I got into hip hop around 1984 with the whole b-boying movement that was going on at the time.
Right.
So everybody, wanted to be boy, the breaking beat street movies, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But really got into the hip hop culture in 84. And by 85, 86, I was listening to hip hop almost all the time. Faithfully listened every weekend to a show called Fantastic Voyage, hosted by the great Ron Nelson. And my friend and I come over to John, I come over to his place, and this is where we get the whole vibe from. We tell people. I went over to his place on Saturday morning. He'd have a cassette player, and we'd have pause and play. And we play that tape for the week until the next Saturday, because the access to music in Toronto was much different back then. So to listen to a hip hop show is more common now, but back then you may have had 3-hour slots on a community radio station or a college radio station, because in terms of reception of getting stations, the closest station that was playing black music in any shape or form was WBLK. I'm talking about for like all day, all night, was WBLK, which is a station out in Buffalo. But you'd have to have really good antennas to get it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But that being said, hip hop was what I really was my interest. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm listening to often. I would say about 92, 93 is when my taste started opening up even more, because now I started getting into acid jazz.
Yeah.
Right? So we're talking about the Jamiroquais, Incognitos, brand new
Omar.
heavy stuff, and then I started getting into house as well. I did like house. I respected house music, right? Because I knew several of the songs by the 90s, but I wasn't an avid listener. You know what I mean? I'd go out to a jam, they played a song. Of course, I'm getting down. I'm going to dance to it, right? But then I really started getting into it in the 90s. And then I started, another show that I tuned into, another CKLN show I tuned into was Dave's Dance Music, which is a show that ran, for several years. And this show would play, everything from hip hop to house to R&B, and
radio show or TV show?
It was radio show.
Okay.
Right? It was 3 hours. It was Sundays 1 to 4 on CKLN. And I listened to that show avidly, and I'd record that show as well and play a lot of music. There's a lot of music that was played on that show. I swear you cannot hear anywhere else, because DJs either played, promo vinyl cuts that they got, or rare vinyl that you cannot get in stores. You might have to order it like on Discogs to get it. You know what I mean? So it was a really, really good show, and so that influenced my whole taste into going into house. So then now I had this mix of hip hop, house, R&B as well, and stuff like that. And then it expanded my interest more musically, because now I was starting to listen to other stuff, starting to listen to jazz, so my tastes started really opening up, like around the mid 90s musically. And that's what got me into that whole realm.
You had a lot of musical influence from your parents or anything?
I would say that, definitely. My parents are from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And, my mom's from Dominica, my father's from St. Lucia. So definitely West Indian influence. You got the soca, reggae influences there. And of course, they listen to all forms of music. One of the things that the islands are famous for, too, a lot of people don't know that, I'm talking about the West Indies in particular, English-speaking islands, / some speak French as well.
Yeah, 7 seasons for...
Yeah, actually, the French Creole, and Dominica has the same French Creole. I'm not sure if linguistically they're different from the other French islands. So I know that there's dialects and all that stuff. But Dominica and St. Lucia has identical Creole linguistic styles. Now, that being said, country and western is a big influence too. So people have westerns, they call them, and they go dance to country western music, and people will be like, "What? Yeah, really?" It's because the relationship of the culture there to country and western, it's a form of blues, of course, but a lot of people are live in the countryside as well, so there's a relation to the music as well. So they listen to people like Jim Reeves, Conway Twitty, Buck Owens, Tammy Wynette, Skeeter Davis, stuff like that. So so all these different musical styles had an influence, and then that also went into music production when I got really involved in music production around the mid 90s, early mid 90s. Let's say 93, 94. And then it took off from there, and that I really got into focusing on creating music.
So you have anything out there already, or you?
I have little projects that came out there. I mean, I had some artists that released stuff on vinyl. I remember one group I worked with was called Branded Black, and put out something back in the mid 90s. I have another artist I worked with, Cornflake Seymour. He now lives in Jamaica. He put out something on his compilation that CHRY put out. Actually, that was my first actual SoCan credit. So thanks to him, I became a SoCan member through that song. And then some little productions here and there. Nothing significant. I think it was just something that I love to do. Right, but then I ended up going out and performing as a result as well. So I did do shows. For example, I did get to open for Public Enemy in Montreal. That's one of my life highlights. Back in the late 90s, I was working with a group called Dope Poet Society. Actually, Dope Poet Society is another group that I did work with, and they put some music out as well that I had produced. And so we were working on some music, and he didn't have anything done, right? So he said, "Hey, could you come with us to play in Montreal to open up for Public Enemy?" I'm like, "Okay." Well, yeah, why not?
I think I'm free.
Yeah, so did it. So I was good, and it was influential. I mean, I got to go to record in Detroit with a friend who was going to University of Windsor, and I actually had a really great opportunity to meet somebody by the name of Proof. Those who don't know who Proof is one of the members of Eminem's D12 squad, and rest in peace to him. But this is the thing that you never know in life. I was at the studio, and think about this, at the time, Proof was the man in Detroit. What I mean by that is, if you see the 8 Mile movie, he was the guy that put Eminem on, and he had this cypher rap battle stuff like that, right?
Oh, so that was him.
Yeah, his character played by Mekhi Phifer was representing Proof. So I met Proof in the studio with my friend while we were recording music. He had a manager with him that was putting together stuff on a DAT tape. That was the main form of mastering material back in the day, DAT tapes. And he was listening to music that I was recording with my friend, and he really liked it. And he said, "Oh, this is really good stuff," right? I'm like, "Oh, Proof, I don't know who Proof is," right? So, case in point, I didn't have a cell phone. I gave him my card. He called me the next day, but I was actually staying in Windsor, so I didn't get to speak to him or connect with him again, because I did call him when I got back in Toronto, but we didn't connect. But all of a sudden, he's with Eminem and crew after Eminem's all out and stuff like that, and blowing up, and then he was also working with Jay Dilla and all that stuff and stuff of that nature. So I was, like I said, pretty close to having this great musical connection with Detroit. But like I said, I learned a lot about preparation and discipline going to that studio in Detroit. The people at Silk Tracks was the name of the place. And these guys actually showed me how to prepare pre-production wise before going into the studio. But then I think in general it influenced me of how to prepare for anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was a great influence being involved with that as well. It was a great experience. So I learned a lot, and I apply that to a lot of what I do as a DJ as well. And other things too. Which we'll get into as well.
So do you play your productions as well when you during your sets? Do you produce house?
You know what? I'm sort of been getting back into it. And I should mention this too. I mentioned that I had a recording studio up on Davenport at one point. It was called Goodies Vinyl for a few years, but it was a good learning ground in terms of stuff, because I did some engineering at that studio as well for different musicians and stuff like that. And it was a great process. But that being said, I've sort of been getting back into it. I've sort of taken a backseat of music production for a long time, and I've been mostly DJing. But I have been participating in productions. I've actually helped co-produce a track, remake of Sasaye. Shout out to my boy Davidson from iDrum and my homeboy Gene King. Shines Records. He's also a DJ on the station I play on iLive Radio, and we helped collaborate this remake of a Sparrow song that is we've presented to the carnivals down in the islands. So we've been getting some press off that. So I've sort of been getting back slowly and surely back into production. It's always been in the back of my mind, but I have tons of songs. I have lots of songs that are incomplete or in process. So it's always there. I could always go back into it, and there's so many ideas I can go back into. But it's when it comes to music, I love music so much. So if I'm doing something, I want to really feel I want to do it, I'll do it. If I'm not interested in it, I won't. Right now, I'm just chilling off music for now, and it's pretty cool. I help people with projects more than actually come up with my own stuff. So that being said, I may have played a couple of my stuff out here and there, right? But not explicitly and say, hey, this is my song. I just want to play it and just hear what it sounds like.
I would definitely do that, man. Like, I'm planning to start producing this year. And, like, you put your stuff on iTunes, people Shazam, and I was like, oh, the hell is this? And then they just, like, get it right away. It's so easy now.
Yeah.
I find it. Do you find it hard to, start a project, leave it on the side for a while, and then have to go back into it?
Well, you know what? In terms of projects, I think I like the idea of putting something aside and coming back into it, because then when you may have a more biased ear when you initially listen to something, and you may think it's great and it may sound good, or it may not sound good. You know what I mean? It depends. But when you go back to it and you say, oh, well, I didn't hear it like this before. Maybe I can add this, or maybe I can touch it up with this. I think it's always good to step away from something than be full throttle and say, well, I'm going to do this. Unless, you're on a deadline, you have to get it done. That's a different thing altogether. But I think in terms of doing any project, it's good to step back and then look at it again and assess it and see, right? Because one thing is going to most definitely happen is whatever process you're in, you're going to learn from it, whether it's good or bad, or hit or miss. So it's that whole aspect that you have to be aware of knowing that that's the process and that's what you're going to learn. You know what I mean?
But I mean, like, also in terms of, when you constantly start doing something and then you never finish them, that kind of stuff. And then it's hard to get back into the motivation you had for this in the beginning.
It's the motivation, the motivation. I do firmly believe in not forcing something to happen. If you love doing it, then by all means do it. But if it's not fulfilling you in any way, shape, or form, why do it, right? So music, putting music together, creating music, that was a period of time that I had my energy focused on that. but I really enjoy like mostly being a DJ, and then I have other interests outside of that. I'm involved with a horticultural group called the Horticultural Society of Proctor, Toronto. I'm co-president of that organization. I focus.
What is it? Sorry.
The Horticultural Societies of Parkdale, Toronto.
Okay.
It's a group of avid gardeners. It's like many groups in the city. There's several groups like this in the city, but this group represents Toronto and Parkdale. It's a merging of two gardening groups. One was started like I think in the late 1800s. I could be wrong. I think 1800s. And one started in about the 90s, but then they merged several years back and became one. Yeah, it's a great fulfilling thing that I've got involved with. I joined initially as a member out of interest. I did a course at Centennial College, a teacher of adults program, and I kept doing projects that were related to gardening and stuff like that, because I do gardening and I do gardening and stuff like that. I have a background in doing landscaping. I'm not trained landscaper. I have a background in it, so I gained an interest in doing that. So I joined them out of interest. But then as time went on, I became more involved. I started volunteering for different events, and then eventually, getting involved with forming committees to do different things, and then ended up becoming part of the board.
That's very cool. But what do you guys? What do you do with this? Like, is it like an indoor stuff? Because I have a hard time understanding the gardening in Canada. Okay. I don't have a lot of
okay, well,
knowledge
this is the thing. Well, as you know, if it's the season in Canada. Okay. So that being said, right? Of course, we're not a tropical part of the world.
Yeah.
But in terms of gardening, if you want to say main gardening season will be from spring till fall, right? But we do have greenhouses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about what our organization does, we do several things. So we fund community projects. We offer grants to fund community projects. And also we do have, for a period from September through to May, we have a meeting once a month where we bring in a guest speaker to talk about any subject of gardening, right? So it could be some pictures they took of certain gardens around the city, and they talk about it, right? So we talk about horticulture all year long, 24/7. You know what I mean? And especially the people who are really involved, like myself, right, and all sorts of things. So we do that. We do outreach programs. We hold a really big plant fair, which will be happening in May, yeah, we do all sorts of amazing stuff for the community. Some of the main events that are coming up, Canada Blooms already started, and we have the Ontario Horticultural Association table, which is a representation organization of all the horticultural clubs in Ontario. So, our members are going to be volunteering at the table during that period of time. City Saturday, Parkdale City Saturday, which is going to be happening at the Bona Parkdale Church on the 23rd of March, which is on a Saturday. That's going to be a really, really cool event. There's all sorts of many interesting things. So even though the weather may not indicate it, it is a 365 thing here still.
Yeah.
In this part of the world. So
but what's motivation? Is it like aesthetical gardening, or is it more like like organic, local produced? Do you guys do just like
it's everything? So we're talking both, anything related to planting, gardening.
I see.
We're all in it. So that means, yes, creating gardens, and also growing food, all sorts of stuff. And this is out of love for gardening. So this is an organization, a group of people that love gardening, want to tell people about gardening, want to help gardening projects, so fun projects and stuff like that. And these are grants we give to people. You know what I mean? So we receive applications for them. And then we also, like I said, I'm part of this committee called the Education Outreach Committee, where we will go to particular places, like to either do Christmas decoration workshops or planting workshops for growing vegetables, stuff of that nature. So either putting them in pots or outdoor as well. You know what I mean? So it's really good. So we get to connect to the communities in that matter as well.
Do you find, since you seem to be like a multi-path kind of a person, like places where you can actually cross those passions?
Actually, ironically, through my it's really interesting. Through my social media, I've been able to get interest from people that I know, and then they say, "Oh wow, you're into, this," and I go, "Yeah, I really love it." So then I get to talk. It's a good talking piece in terms of that. I personally, like, as I share myself, so everybody decides how they want to use their medium to express themselves. I guess I would say my representation on if it's in that aspect, I do try to represent the place I'm living and I've grown up in. I've born and raised in Toronto, right? So I've grown up in a city that has a really diverse population, diverse interests, and especially a lot of people have come over here around the world, either from Portugal, Italy, Greece, the Caribbean, India. A lot of us have common interests. Although we have cultural differences, we have common interests as well. And so that helps bring the diverse flavor. And I think that's influenced me a lot too, because I'm not limited to just being a DJ. I'm not limited to just playing one type of music. I'm not limited to just being into gardening. I'm into everything. And I think that allows me to be able to be in different crowds. And that's one thing I've noticed. So, the funniest joke that happens, I'll be with a friend and walking around and they'll say, "Oh," I run into somebody I know and say, "Yeah, every time I'm with you, you run into somebody you know," and I go, I don't know if that's an indication of the amount of different groups or things I go to.
Yeah.
I'm pretty, I'm say to a degree I'm open. I haven't still been to a lot of different things that go on in the city, but, I'm open to different circles of groups. And I think that enables me to make friends in that way. But I think the most interesting thing is that sometimes they overlap with each other, and you get to see that,
I see.
interesting dynamic,
Well, I guess it's like on my side, like I'm a software engineer, so but
cool.
it and the passion for music at some point that clicked together. Like you realize how technology and your knowledge from your daily work can help you, grow and develop your artistic side, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like the artistic side definitely can help you develop something really special in your career.
Exactly.
It's a very interesting path.
Yeah, and that's inspiration too. Is that gardening is the artistic. I love nature, by the way, and the artistic thing about that is, if there's any great artist, in this realm of existence, it is nature.
Yeah.
And it reminds you in every shape and form. You know what I mean? So, and you get that inspiration to influence what you do too, like record or play or something of that nature. You know what I mean?
Well, when I asked you this question, I was kind of.
By the way, see, so we're going to a very interesting thing. So this church over here, that I'm pointing to right there,
that's where
so we're Queen and Dunn. Our meetings are by this church here every once a month. Our horticulture society meetings are in that church, and that's where the CD Saturday is going to be. That's 250 Dunn Avenue. Yeah, so it's ironical. We're in Proctor right now, of all things, right? We're talking about my horticulture society.
We're going through your history right now.
Yeah, it's interesting going through our. I can tell you, I was here, I was there. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. So when I was asking you this question, I was kind of thinking you would say something like gardening really like taught you like patience or something like that.
Actually, I will say. Patience is interesting. I've never thought of that, but I would say that peace. I'm very peaceful when I garden. I'm in a very good place. I can garden all day long.
Yeah.
I could do that all day long I can walk through the garden and take a look at the plants. I can do that all day long. I literally can. I don't know if I have the patience to be a musician, right? A recording musician, you know. But that being said, I mean, if I'm with the right people, you know, I mean, of course, I could definitely enjoy being in a creative process. I guess it all comes down to the personalities you deal with too. I think that's what it comes down to as well, right? But for gardening, oh yeah, you know, there's a different type of communication. You know what I mean? And there's no, it's reciprocal, and there's no. You're not dealing with ego, I guess. That's what it is. You're not dealing with ego. It's mutual, and you know what I mean? It's a different kind of communication.
Yeah,
I think that's what I like about gardens. I always say when I go down to Allen Gardens down by Jarvis and Gerard area down there, I always tell people I go to visit my friends over there. I'm visiting my friends when I go down to Allen Gardens. So that's what I could consider the plants as my friends, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say nature is definitely a humbling thing.
Yeah.
So, also in terms of like, since you started in the '90s, like, how did you see this? Like, first the music, the nightlife evolved in Toronto. I guess it has to be. I heard that it's very, very much different from what it used to be.
Oh yeah. So if we're gonna go in the night, if we're gonna go into the whole nightclub thing or night scene here. Definitely one of the most influential, probably the most influential spot. One of them in the city was a place known as the Twilight Zone. Yeah. Run by the Soon brothers, and they're really cool guys. They're involved with the remix spot remix up on Dundas now. But yeah, they're a big influence on the scene in the city. You know, places that sprouted up like Industry for a period of time. That used to be at King. If you go down to King, right by where Strawn is, there's like where the Sharper's Drug Mart and Pizza Nova was. Okay. That was a big club for that scene as well. RPM, formerly Warehouse, and what was the other name? Oh, Cool House, Warehouse, also known as, and Government. Those names. But that was a spot for a long time. Phoenix was another spot, and then. Yeah, all sorts of spots along the club district as well. Joker, all sorts of different great venues. And then one of the most well-known ones, and this is the one that was for this particular venue was known for all sorts of scenes, but Roxy Blue. Roxy Blue was you know, you had a hip hop event, you had house events, you may have the the straight ahead, generic nights on Saturdays sometimes, but it was a venue which was right down by King and Spadina off Grant Street, and it was a really great spot, really great vibes, great people, and that definitely influenced a lot. But then, of course, the change started happening when some clubs started closing down. Condo development, real estate, all that stuff played a big part as well, and of course, city clamping down on certain scenes because certain scenes may have had invited certain types of people to it, and so a lot of changes happened in that sense. What I would say now is, unlike back in the day, you would say this venue is the home for this music. Okay. I cannot say any genre of music has a home outside of maybe some live music spots in the city. But there would be a certain venue that you can go see this DJ at or that person at. I see. Yeah, so a little different. And this is, by the way, this neighborhood we're going through here, when I was a young kid, I was born in Parkdale, by the way, and my parents lived here for a couple of years just off a street called Spencer. So this is like little stomping grounds for me to a degree.
I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Oh yeah, you're just driving, but just drive. It's sort of creating the narrative for me to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's good because I moved here a few years ago, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about this city. Yeah. I know it changed a lot. Like within 10 years, the city is recognizable. Yeah. And even how active it is.
You can't be.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Oh, you could. That's why I'm sorry. These signs, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, but there's a lot of changes have happened, and I've been here I've been here since I was born here. So I've seen a lot of changes here. A lot.
Do you miss a certain era?
I'm gonna say that my favorite era of Toronto would be the 90s. I would say late 80s, early 90s. There was just something in the air in the city that was different back then. You know, and then, you know, like going down to Yonge Street, for example, and some people would not, you know, I remember going to Yonge Street where I can go to a record store and check some records out, get posters, go into a place, play video games, stop off, eat a pizza, and not spend a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
You know, or go see a movie. Walk, scrolling down in and out the Eaton Center. You know, Yonge Street was that hub of the city where everybody just came down to hang out at, and it was like a Friday night in the summer, man. That was the place to be.
Yeah.
Oh my God, or Saturday night in the summer. That was the place to be, right? Queen Street too was another street that changed a lot over the years as well. Was a very artsy street and a lot of stuff. Like I said, you know, the city, the building that CTV occupies now, CDTV used to be in there, and they developed a whole bunch of interesting programming in the sense of you know, music as well. Much music was you know, a station that most people will know of, but
true.
A lot of great shows were developed there, like shows like Extended Mix, which was hosted by Master T. Mike Williams hosted Soul and City, and yeah, really a lot of, like, especially in the 90s, a lot of black music came out during that period of time, and it was being shown. Rap City was another show, music show called Rap City as well. Yeah, a lot of great stuff. So yeah, and then like you said, artistically, I would say a lot changed in that sense too, right?
Yeah.
So you got some of the like, you know, I would tell people that growing up in Toronto, one of the things I loved was the mom and pop stores. There were a lot of mom and pop stores. My father would take me to these mom and pop stores outside of going to Kensington Market. You know, when Kensington Market used to have all the garbage outside and wouldn't smell so great, you know, it's a different era. But you know, we go to these mom and pop shops, and you know, my father would get pop from a mom and pop bottler. You know, not from, you know, not going to the store and getting it from Coca-Cola, you know what I mean? So, you know, at the store, local store. So it was a lot of stuff, a lot of businesses.
Is that the reason why you guys call that pop?
What? Oh, pop?
The word pop is something that I heard in Canada only.
Okay.
For, you know, for separate drinks, right?
Oh, you mean soda and pop?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, we call it pop. We call it pop here. I've never, you know, unless the only time I'll say soda is if they say club soda, right? But
yeah,
I've never used soda for pop. It's been pop. That's how we call it.
Yeah. And talking about the 90s, were you there when Dream Warriors were out?
Yes, I was.
I'm a big fan of Dream Warriors.
Okay, so you know, capital, there's Q, and there's Lou.
Yeah.
Q, at one point was involved with iLive radio station that I'm involved with,
that was
right?
my next topic.
So I know, like I said, I've known and hung around him for a period of time, and known him from that time as well, in that era. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a really good group. That was a really amazing group. I love their music. I have that. So Legacy Returns, I have it on cassette. I actually posted on a page. I tagged him. I tagged Q in a post regarding that. That album is such an amazing album.
Yeah, one of my hip hop teacher made me discover this group back in the days. He's like a New Jack Swing hip hop teacher.
Oh, New Jack Swing.
Yeah. So yeah, Facing the Basin, etc.
Yeah.
Those were the tracks. I used to play that a lot in my classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I saw them, I was really surprised. I went to the iLive Omar concert they had.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yes. I was there. That was really unexpected for me to see Omar in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his first time, no?
Omar had not performed in Toronto until that point since 2000 and I'm trying to say sometime before 2010.
Yeah.
Was it 2008, 2006? So, and then at that time he came up a couple of times, right? Before we brought him up, iLive brought him up, right? So he had performed in Toronto a couple of times at Mod Club. I remember at Mod Club. So But before he performed in Mod Club, he hadn't performed since the 90s. So before we brought him up, would have to be around. I'm just trying to get the right number here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about 2007, 2008, before iLife brought him up a couple years ago.
That's crazy, man. Like, I grew up on his music, and it's very much still underground. Like,
big time. But you know what? He's a respected artist.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the one thing I appreciate, that, you know, and he's kept reinventing himself.
Oh, yeah.
He's been able to, you know, of course, people know him as a soul singer, but then he's been able to do different genres, especially going into the house, and then some of the new jazz stuff as well. And yeah.
Well, he's going into Afro House big time right now.
Yeah. And he could swing a reggae song easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because out of that influence and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, he's very big in France.
Yeah.
Very big.
Mm-hmm.
And no, man, like Omar is, and I get lucky. I get the chance to talk to him at this concert, because I went to the private one that iLife did before for the. It was very good.
Yeah.
So what's the story with iLife?
Okay, so story starts off with our boy Jason Henry. Shout outs to him. He had recently flown off to do some time over in England. Good time, that is, not bad time. I was just say that, right? But he's the founder of iLife Radio, and he had set it up when he at the time when he moved over here, just to keep in connection with his people in the UK.
Yeah.
Right. So he set that up as just a part-time, like, you know, something I just want to do on weekends. But then the idea came when a bunch of other friends of mine had connected with him. People like Gene King and God rest his soul, Masimba, DJ Son of Soul, legend in this city, and another guy, Gary, DJ Gaza, and Patrick Morris. They all hooked up, and then they started getting some ideas of, hey, you know, we want to have this outlet to fill in for what's missing in this city. And then they started recruiting DJs, and so it's something that was in the works. So initially, what was at once a weekend, you know, station, right, became a full-fledged radio station. So the official launch of the station was in 2015. But Jason had the station started from before that.
I see.
Right, but now, there's a lot of things happening now with the station. You know, the iLive UK office is opening up soon, so we have a UK crew over as well, and a bunch of DJs as well. Jorginho is the lead of the crew out there, and also we have, you know, the music label is out now too, iLive Music, and we're been putting out music by mainly right now who has a show on our station, artist the great Ray Robinson, legendary soul artist from Toronto, has a release out now as well. And so making a foray into a lot of stuff, and we have we do have our iLive Soul Fest. We have a really big show planned for this year. It is going to be colossal. That's all I'm going to say right now. I can't say much on it. But it's going to be huge. It's going to be eye-opening, because, you know, one of the things is that, you know, the main thing we've been trying to do is, we bring this, you know, these great artists, you know, from around the world, but we're also exposing, you know, and we're emphasizing, you know, independent artists that are going out there and doing their own thing, and then exposing local artists as well, and supporting that as well. But yeah, we're just building. We keep on building and keep on, you know. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's my question was more iLive Radio. Is it what kind of it was created like is it government supported?
Oh no. This is not. So this is not government. It's a nonprofit. Just about that being said, right? It's a nonprofit. We're not like, you know, some radio stations that go get funding. It's a nonprofit, so it operates as such. And the DJs come on, they play and stuff like that. And that's what we do. And we're the ones behind doing these events. We may get partnerships if we want people to sponsor events and stuff like that, but it's basically us running the station.
Yeah, I've learned some interesting thing moving to Toronto, talking to artists. I've heard something that I didn't know was a thing. Like the fact of having so many artists that lives on government helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's probably the reason why there's a lot of like watered down music.
Yeah, so in Toronto, here's a very, very, very interesting thing here. The artists in Toronto, there's a lot of amazing, great talent in Toronto, right? But if we're talking about making a living, you know what I mean? A good chunk of them aren't rich, all right? And of course, and they have to. You said in some cases may get some government assistance in some cases, but also there are people who have grants who get grants and stuff like that and stuff of that nature. But a big problem in this city is that venues don't respect the artists as much in terms of paying them for what they're worth, and the arts is sort of looked down on. It's like, they somebody could play guitar, but they think it's easy to play a guitar. People practice like you practice being a basketball player, you practice being an athlete, and you put time in it, and there's a lot of skill. You have to spend money to get equipment and stuff like that. So when somebody says we're going to pay you for exposure, really, you know what I mean? What kind of joke is that? Or we're going to pay you $50. Yeah, $50 for what? You know what I mean? So it all comes down to, I think, for any artist in the city who's going to get involved, first of all, you got to love it. Right? Yeah. You got to love it first and foremost. If you're going to put all your bags in it, like if you're going to use that as your meal ticket to get to whatever, start thinking of being international. And I think at this particular stage in the game, people, artists back in the day with no access to the internet and social media, all this stuff, right? There's no excuse not to be an international artist and make connections. Go out, meet people. I've gotten a whole lot of gigs, and I'll say this, I've gotten a whole lot of gigs by going out and supporting people in events and meeting people and networking with people. Don't be in a cubbyhole. I mean, hey man, if you're not a people person, I get it, but at some point you got to communicate, you got to get in touch with people. That's where you get to build your clientele, you get to build your audience. So definitely go out and support artists, and I try my best to go out and support as much as I can. Sometimes there's events happening in the same night and I can't make it, and there's some places that I intend to go to one day, and I eventually do. But it's timing, you know what I mean? It's a lot. I haven't been to your Ubuntu event, for example, which I plan to when I get a chance to do so.
Yeah, man, no rush. I don't pressure people, man. I'm cool. I used to be very, I don't know, really annoyed by those things, but now, it's just it's something you do for pleasure, You shouldn't stress too much about it.
Yeah.
But it's true that when you're a full-time artist and that's where all your money comes from, it has to be a lot more pressure.
Yeah.
So and in terms of shit, I forgot I had a question. I forgot it. Like to go back to the government grants and all that stuff. I thought it was very interesting. It's what I've heard is like, well, okay, what do you think of this situation of all those talents and that they most of the time need to leave the city to make it outside to become big here after? And what's the solution to this?
The elephant in the room. Well, my whole opinion is that if you're not getting what you feel you deserve where you're located or where you're living, then go where you have to go to get it. I firmly believe in that. And traditionally, and this is not just here in Toronto, unless there's a place that has the structure to support it, right? Most cities don't support the musicians in the towns that they live in, so sometimes they have to leave to go elsewhere. That being said, Toronto's, could be a home base for somebody, you know what I mean? A place for somebody to stay, once you're established and stuff like that, right? But hey, if you're able to establish, getting work outside of the country in other places where you're going to be rightfully, justifiably compensated for your work, then go there. You know what I mean? Go there, make it happen, make the connections. You know what I mean? It only builds your brand, and I think that's another thing that's very important is understanding branding and building your brand.
Well, it opens your mind. It's a challenge. Moving somewhere else is it's tough, man.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's tough, and definitely like I've what your friend Jason did. Bringing something from somewhere else, keeping connections with artists from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I had my boy TK the other day on the show, and he did the same thing with Moonriser. He brings his artists from South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. That's where for me the multicultural aspect of music is coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People coming from somewhere else, going through the challenge. And I do the same for France.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and that's how I think Toronto is very interesting. But yeah, it's very much underground. I hear a lot of people saying Toronto's boring. There's not a lot of shit to do, but it's just very underground.
It was funny. I had a very interesting conversation. I was at a show last night. Shout outs to the groups that I went to go see last night, Poor Man's High and Future Primitive. Some of us have some friends in both groups. I was at Horseshoe Tavern, and I met a couple, right, that moved here from Vancouver, and they're I won't say exactly where they live, but they live in a part of the city where the people there are really stuffy types, right? And they're sort of like we're doing this. So they come from a place where, they were able to be more open, but it's tougher. And I said, you know what? You haven't connected with the right people. I think you need to find the right people. Once you find the right people, you enjoy this city. And I remember a woman I used to date. She had a sale on her street, and we met a guy was from Montreal. And he said the same thing. He said when he first came to Toronto, the people he's hanging around with just hung around in pubs and drank all day. But then he met some people that showed him other parts of the city, like going to Kingston Market and going to all these events. And then Toronto was a great vibe for him. So it all comes down to the people that you meet. Because if you don't meet the right people, then this place is going to suck. I'm telling you, anybody comes to Toronto, connect with the right people. Just find out. Start off going to the artsy events. Go to the artsy events first, and that's where you'll be able to connect with some people. I definitely recommend it.
It's the same thing in Paris, man. You can have like a really shitty experience there. I think it's the same everywhere. In New York.
Yeah.
So many people tell me to go to New York, they hate it. I'm like, how?
I know. How do you hate New York?
Yeah, of course, if you stay in Manhattan all the time and you never go to Brooklyn or anything, it's just gonna suck. But
and there are cool spots in Manhattan, but it's all about again meeting the right people, knowing the vibe of what's going on.
Yeah, man.
It depends on what you want. Do you want the generic mainstream experience, or do you want to find out the things that are on the edge and not common? You know what I mean? It's all
there you go. So, what's coming for you right now in the future?
In the future. So, I have several events coming up this year. But as of this particular moment, I'm doing an actually fill-in job for a friend of mine, Davidson from D Concept. He's out of the country, so I'm filling in for him at a spot called I think it's Louis V or something like that, but it's in St. Regis Hotel on the top floor. So that's this Thursday. It's a poshy spot, but hey, I'll be playing it from 5 to 9. And Remo House, we're launching a Remo House event. As you know, I'm involved with Remo Events and Entertainment. So we're launching our Remo House brand this Friday. And that's going to be cool. Remo House Sessions. It's going to be happening at Baseline, 865 Bloor Street West.
So how is it going to be different from the Remo that we did outside of the
it's gonna pretty much be similar. The Stansef event was more Afro House influenced. We're gonna do some of that. We're gonna do some of the Afro Latin, but then also we're gonna do the straight ahead traditional house, warehouse vibes, you know what I mean? That sort of vibe as well. So it's going to be a more open aspect to house music wise in terms of genre. But we're going to have the live bands playing there too with the musicians and stuff like that. RP Sounds will be opening up. We're going to have Denny Henry from Mars Bars playing as well. And Kat and Brett will be hosting as well. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then there's some more events down the pipeline. I can't say what they are yet because we haven't started promotion. You don't want to go ahead of yourself and say this is happening, that's happening. You know what I mean? But I do have some events. The season's picking up, the weather's warming up, and I'm going to be.
Yeah, summer's coming, eh?
Yeah.
Big program.
Oh yeah.
Lots of festivals.
Yes.
And music-wise, do you? I mean, when I say like what's coming for you is like not necessarily in with respect to event, but I mean like.
Oh, you mean musical outputs?
Like, where do you want to go?
Oh, where do I want to go? Well, right now I'm continuing as I mentioned. I'll mention to it now for everybody's watching. I have a radio show every Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. called Close the Rhythm on iLive Radio. So go to iliveradio.com. And we're also available on Google Play Store. You can download the app for free.
Oh, there's an app now.
Yeah. So, and I play music from around the world, basically, all over the place. So, of course, playing my influences. So that's continuing. That's ongoing. And like I said, I'll be doing events during the year, and of course, all the other stuff I'm involved with. The Horticulture Society stuff, the plant fair, that's coming up in May. Which will be happening at the Roncesvalles United Church. It's going to be a very active summer for me again. I'll say that, to say the least.
Do you see, like, you reach a certain level as a DJ in your career that you don't, like, when you play somewhere, it's a DJ performance. It's not you playing for people. You're not a fucking iPod,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they know the people know your style and they're not gonna come and ask you to play some Justin Bieber, for example.
Oh, I have had those experiences where people come ask me to play, and it all depends on the environment. If it's the environment where if it's that environment, like if it's a pop environment, then I'm open to requests. But then if it's an environment where I'm performing and I'm playing a specific genre of music, I'm not popping any music in, even if it's the genre music, because there's some people who've come in, like I remember, one asked me to play, a certain artist and stuff like that, but it's more of expressing yourself and expressing how you want to play.
Yeah, you're crafting yourself.
You're crafting, so you're expressing. So there is a fine line for me, but I think once it becomes to a point where somebody's becoming really obnoxious, then it's an issue. But you have to sort of have to toe the line of being firm but not being rude at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this part is always challenging.
It's always challenging because you don't want to hurt your reputation, but
there you go.
It's a tricky thing.
Yeah. Reputation is a flimsy.
Yeah.
And
when people can videotape you now and and put you online and say, "Oh, this DJ said this."
Yeah.
So, be careful.
Man, we at the top of the hour, and it was very cool to have you here, man.
Yeah.
And looking forward to more events where we're gonna cross paths.
Yes.
And thank you for coming, man.
Oh, you're welcome.
DJ Ron Jon.
Yes, thank you so much, brother. And hey, hopefully in the future we get to link and do something and stuff like that. But I'm definitely gonna try to make it to the next Ubuntu. Hopefully my day is open.
Yeah, man.
Check you guys out because I've always wanted to see you guys play.
Yeah,
and all the best to you. Say what's up to Jürgen for me too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's do this.